Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Wrestling Inc. podcast. I'm Glenn Rubenstein. Today we're going to talk about SmackDown Live for March 7th, 2017. And today we have Raj Giri, Wrestling Inc.'s own, and then from the Pro Wrestling Torch, Mr. Wade Keller. Wade, thanks for joining us today.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, guys. So let's talk about SmackDown Live last night. A lot to cover there, a lot to cover Talking Smack. We have a pretty good idea of where the WrestleMania card is headed right now. And then after, if we have time, we'll touch a bit on the new era of Impact Wrestling. So let's start with SmackDown last night. Wade, could you give everyone sort of your overview thoughts on the show?
I thought during watching the show, it came across like a B show compared to Raw. Mm-hmm. I thought that with Undertaker moving to SmackDown and coming off an eventful Fastlane and then an eventful Raw, that even if SmackDown you think is the better show, and a lot of people do, I think you have to admit that it's starting to show that it's not Vince McMahon's priority right now to make it feel equal to Raw. That was one of my kind of macro pictures. On the micro side, I like the I have mixed feelings about the Orton AJ Styles match. I like that they solved it. I like that they did the clean finish. I think that Randy Orton needed a clean win going into the WrestleMania title match. I'm glad they didn't mess around with that. I'm curious how they justify AJ Styles versus Shane McMahon, if that is indeed where they land. We saw the gorilla position angle last night. So I'm curious how they get to a point that it feels like Shane and AJ is a justified WrestleMania match.
Wade, real quick, there's something you touched on right there, because it's something I've been mentioning for a little bit about WWE kind of making SmackDown the B show. And that seemed like that was kind of the beginning of the end last time they did the brand split. I mean, it was a slow decline, but once you make one the B show, their house attendance starts falling, their pay-per-view numbers start falling, and then ultimately you get rid of it altogether. Do you think they might be in danger of doing that again?
I think they're always going to be in danger of doing that. I think what's different this time is that they are on USA Network. That's equal ground to Raw. They're not on a secondary cable network, and they're on live on Tuesdays. So when you have those two factors and you have separate brand pay-per-views and separate branded house shows, there's so many incentives built in for Vince McMahon to continue with the brand split and to try to make the brands equal. I think WrestleMania season, he starts favoring his firstborn. He starts favoring the show that has the largest audience. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. I hope that we see some redistribution of big names and talent once WrestleMania season is over. And when you look at what makes Raw feel like the A show right now, it is the inclusion of Goldberg, Lesnar, Undertaker, Triple H. You subtract that, I don't think that there's as much of a difference, if any, at this point.
And I think it works to SmackDown's advantage that there's not as much attention on it, so they're able to get away with doing crazier segments, with doing more character development. I think Talking Smack alone, I think even on an average week with SmackDown, the existence of Talking Smack and the episodes they've been turning out give it a natural lift. I mean, I have to say last night, I thought, Orton versus AJ lacked a little bit as far as what it could have been versus what it was. But when I look over the overall experience, especially with what happened on Talking Smack with the Miz last night, it's hard for me to leave my Tuesday night wrestling experience feeling bad after seeing the way they went out last night, Yeah,
no, and that's the thing about SmackDown is it does feel like it's almost always might be overstating it, but the strong majority of the time the better show of the two. Yeah. And AJ Styles is a big part of that. The length of the show being only 2 hours is a big part of that. That plays into it. I did think AJ and Orton was lackluster. I didn't have as high a hopes as others did going into it, because I think Randy Orton has become the consummate B- player. I think that he's always good for a B- match, but you're not going to get even a B+ or A- out of him anymore. But he's never going to be a C- or D. He's professional. He's smooth. He hits his spots. We had a caller on our podcast last night say he's like that old band that you like that play their greatest hits. You pop for the hits, and he hits his big spots, and the fans pop for it. But when he won, I actually thought there was a little bit of a maybe they were deflated a little bit because they kind of wanted AJ to be in the main event of Mania, not Orton. So I'm with you. I don't think the match was anything spectacular, and I think actually the announcers set the bar so high it was hard to even live up to it. I thought that it was a little heavy-handed.
Yeah, and we'll get to it. I agree with what Wade said. I feel like that's been the case with Orton for a while, where fans are really into his entrance, they're into the RKO, but once his matches start, and especially the longer they go, they're deflated. And I just don't see him maintaining that interest in his matches like most top stars do.
Randy's known for being a guy when he gets his promo script, he's pacing backstage, memorizing it line for line all afternoon. I think same thing with his matches. He's meticulous, he's a perfectionist, but it takes that sense of spontaneity out of anything that happens in his match. He doesn't look like he's in a fight. He looks like he is performing a memorized sequence. And the crowd accepts it to a degree, but I don't feel them getting real emotionally involved in his match. Even last night when he stuck his tongue out and looked to the crowd and leaned in, they react, but they react like they're on cue, but they're not really emotionally on a ride with what he's doing. They're sort of observing with detached observation what he does. And like I say, they see him as a star, but I don't think he's a B- player right now in terms of connecting with the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like going to a Leonard Skinner concert these days. We know we're going to hear Freebird at some point, and the rest of the time it's a serviceable show, but it's just can't compete with the current acts.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that match in depth a little bit later, but the show opened with Daniel Bryan and Shane talking about what was going to happen with AJ and Randy later in the show.
Should we take 10 minutes to set up talking about this segment, or should we do it as quickly as they could have last night and do it in 30 seconds?
It was amazing last night where it was just like, I don't know. And then what about this? And I know we'll do a match later tonight for the number one. I mean, very odd. Someone said backstage, well, they have to have different sides of this, right? Or else it doesn't make sense. So yeah, long setup for that main event last night between Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon, but we went from that
real quick. It was a 15-minute segment on a
Jesus.
3-paragraph article on WWE.com. That article set it up, what they did in that 15 minutes. I really like Daniel Bryan. The problem is when he is forced to say things that he doesn't really would say, and I thought that's what happened in this promo when he was using terms and words that are not natural, and they came across that way. So he just felt unnatural in this opening promo.
I think they felt if they fly Shane into Indianapolis, we got to get at least 15 minutes of TV time with him. And I would have rather had American Alpha and some sort of meaningful tag match, or actually I would have liked to have some follow-up on Bray Wyatt, just talk about, they did this major angle last week, and it was like, it was sort of like they talked about it, but they didn't do anything with it. Daniel Bryan and Shane, I'm minute by minute ratings. It'd be interesting to see how impatient the audience got, because I knew by about the 5-minute mark I was impatient, and they went another 7. So it was a bad call.
And also, it was second week in a row that the tag team champions are doing the dark match at SmackDown.
Yeah, meaningful tag match. Really, that's something both brands have problems with right now, I think. Odd though also, right, that we saw this escalation, and they re-showed the clips of it twice last night with Randy burning down the compound. I mean, no one's really taken it to that level. I mean, sure, later in the show we had Baron Corbin injuring Dean Ambrose with a forklift, but it sort of begged that age-old question of like, where's HR in this company? Sort of talking about where you cross the line. I think Randy went above and beyond.
But everybody knows it's fake.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the answer. That's the answer that people have, and it drives me nuts. We all know everything that we watch, movies, TV shows. Yeah. I mean, the idea is have a narrative structure where when you turn it on, you're immersed in it, and there's a set of rules. And like JBL was so upset over the forklift incident. I mean, I've never seen JBL more despondent over something being done that is outside the lines, outside the bounds. Well, Randy Orton did just burn down and may have actually killed a cameraman, at least damage. I mean, it's just when you leave the normal narrative universe, to use their term, you got to sell it. And I thought they actually lost a lot of steam because what they did last week came across as a stunt that we're sort of going to take seriously, but sort of not. And to not wonder, I mean, Bray is their world champion. He's not a fringe player. And they didn't talk about, like, where's Bray this week? What does he think? Yeah. Why isn't he here? How do you do that angle last week and then not follow up with something more substantial this week?
Didn't Maurice get fined 2 months ago for like slapping Renee Young back in a segment?
Yeah. yes.
I mean, that's just insane to me. Absolutely insane. But yeah, I think Bray's absence was smart last night, but a little weird that they didn't address it more. That's
the point. Yeah, it's not that he shouldn't necessarily been there. It's just like he's your champion. He's not here, and explain why. Address that more. Yeah.
So we had John Cena and Nikki Bella versus James Ellsworth and Carmella. The Miz and Maurice. It actually happened, folks. We had the Miz and Maurice come out and interrupt this match. They were on commentary for all of it. But I mean, did anyone expect this match was going to be even as much as it was, let alone more?
It's about what I expected. I just wasn't expecting James Ellsworth to be wearing leopard print panties. That was a weird choice also on this show. It was about what it was about what I thought it would be. Ellsworth is not a trusted worker in the ring. But I think, Cena and Nikki doing stereo signature moves was enough to make the match worthwhile. And although the Miz and Maurice, Cena and Nikki lying at ringside for, the whole Miz promo after that relatively short beatdown felt a little orchestrated too.
Yeah. I do think, I wonder when they're going to give Maurice some ring time, because she hasn't wrestled in 6 years, and she's about to go into a featured match in WrestleMania. So yeah, she could have used that ring time, but
maybe she and Undertaker can work out together.
yeah, exactly. Maurice, I think the Miz is really carrying this feud right now, especially talking smack. He's just been amazing on the mic. In the ring, he's fine, but he's just really turned it up. And I know we'll get to talking smack, but that's been the thing that's been keeping me most interested in this feud is the Miz.
Miz is fantastic. I mean, a couple of years ago, I thought he was done. I mean, he was just awful. The smirking face, like he just was sucking on a lemon, and same cliches. Camera shy cat. And the promos he's cutting, I mean, you don't know what he's going to say next. I think he got buoyed by he's been good for a long time, but that Talking Smack segment with Daniel Bryan that just seemed to go places you don't expect WWE to go, I think has fueled Miz's character. And the things he said about John Cena, he made Nikki sign a contract to be his girlfriend. I mean, there's not a lot that makes my jaw drop, but when you start saying, John Cena is the Tom Cruise of WWE with, fake girlfriends for PR reasons, and you talk about them being a plastic couple. I'm curious what the end game is in this. I obviously Cena's okay with all of this, but I think it seems like Miz is speaking more truth than WWE superstar would be given permission to do, and I think that's intriguing to viewers.
Yeah, and because in a lot of ways this is very similar to the angle they did with AJ Styles, because AJ Styles would complain about Cena being a part-timer. He wants to get rid of him because Cena is taking the other guy's spot, but Miz is just taking that to another level, and yeah, exactly, to Wade's point, he blends so much truth, that stuff that up until now they haven't been allowed to say on TV. Even stuff like, Cena ripping off a beer company for his T-shirt design. They've never mentioned that on WWE TV. But Miz bringing that up, it just adds a whole nother element to this.
Well, it's amazing because you think about it. AJ made like 1 or 2 points. You're a part-timer and you bury guys like me. Miz, just had a list. And by the end of it last night, I had to go back and watch it again. I was like, this is the guy we're supposed to not want to win, right? No, because I was like, he's making some very valid points.
Well, it's like Miz went on Reddit and said, hey, tell me, top 100 things you don't like about John Cena. Yeah. And he's like, that was his promo. Reddit wrote it for him.
Oh, my God. And last night, just looking at that, browsing Squared Circle last night, the Miz, not since CM Punk have I seen somebody so embraced by the Reddit community and the internet wrestling community.
That was not predicted 3 years ago, by the way.
Yeah,
it wasn't predicted a year ago.
No.
Miz is having like his best year. And Talking Smack is just such a huge part of that, and giving him that form. He shines the way no one else does.
Yeah, you talk about people that have benefited from the brand split, and he's at the top of that list.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the breathing space for some of the people that have shined, and Alexa Bliss is up there too, adding to that list.
Yeah, so we had a quick segment with Renee and Randy backstage teasing the match that was going to come later in the night. They talked about Rick Rude going into the Hall of Fame. And then back from the break, we had, God, I love this. I love that Kurt Hawkins thinks he's in a feud with Dean Ambrose. and Dean just came out. That's a brilliant angle. Dean came out, took care of Kurt very quickly, and then went to calling out Baron Corbin last night. The only other thing that happened between was Mojo. I guess you can just announce you're going in the armbar this year. Mojo announced he's going to be in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania 33. But yeah, Ambrose and Corbin. So this was a very extensive backstage segment. They've been doing more backstage fights on SmackDown lately. What did you think of that angle, Wade, with Ambrose getting that injured by Corbin and then pulling the whole hospital updates throughout the evening and whatnot?
Yeah, the forklift thing felt kind of cheesy to me. I I mean, I don't have a strong negative feeling. I mean, I like when they kind of go outside the bounds of something just at ringside or in the ring now and then. But again, the key is the follow up. I guess if you're going to do it, I like that they did. And by the way, hospital is not a approved term. Medical facility, medical facility updates. Only in pro wrestling. I mean, if you're going to do it, then sell it. Maybe Renee Young should have even been hosting Talking Smack, given the broken ribs, but. Or cracked ribs. I don't know. I mean, it was fine. I'm a fan of Baron Corbin. I think that his portrayal with a straight face, totally believable. He's a guy that you absolutely expect would blow you off under any circumstances, and that he's being a jerk to the woman behind the counter at the rental agency, at the hotel desk. I mean, you just believe that he just wants to beat people up, cash his check, and go clubbing. And I like that, and I believe that. And he comes across as badass and tough. So I mean, I like this feud. I think Dean Ambrose probably aspired to be in a higher position than a Baron Corbin feud going into Mania. But honestly, I mean, Corbin's a rising star in the eyes of WWE, and this angle stands out. So I mean, I give it a mild thumbs up.
Raj?
Yeah, I mean, I did think the forklift thing was kind of cheesy. I thought it was cheesy when they did it at Halftime Heat with the Rock and Mankind, 17 years ago or whatever that was. But that being said, with what Wade said, I do agree with a lot of that. I do think Baron Corbin, you do get that impression from his personality, that he is that way, that he's cocky, doesn't care. My issue with him is his promos. A lot of his promos is what you would think he would really say, but he just doesn't deliver it that way. He's trying to hit like the emphasis on certain points, and it just comes across as he's reading a script. And I think he needs some work on that end. But I do see why WWE is high on him. He definitely has that look that he has that presence to him, which so a lot of times that gets you a couple steps ahead before other guys who have more in-ring ability. So I think Ambrose and Corbin. I actually think Corbin's probably going to win the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania. So I think this feud is a good step for him.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens there. We came back from that to Alexa Bliss, the Blissertation, talking about who she's going to face at WrestleMania in the ring with Mickie James. I thought it was very interesting how she dismissed the entire roster and dismissed even that she would be facing Mickie. I wonder if they even in kayfabe came up with an answer she was supposed to have about who her opponent was going to be before Daniel Bryan came out. But we did learn that Mickie will be facing every active woman on the SmackDown, or pardon me, Alexa will be facing every active woman on the SmackDown roster at WrestleMania for that SmackDown Live women's title. And from there, we went into a tag team match that was Alexa Bliss and Mickie James versus Natalya and Becky Lynch. So Raj, I'll go to you first on this one. What do you think about this angle for Mania? We'd heard some different stuff before, that it might be a 3-way or a 4-way, or maybe even a tag match with some of the older women coming back to team with Mickie against a SmackDown Live tag team of the current women. What do you think about this angle for Mania?
I mean, it's a way for them to get all the women on the show. I'm fine with it. I wonder if they're phrasing it, that phrasing that she's facing every woman on the roster is a way to keep the door open for Naomi if she's able to make it, by the time she's done with her, if she's able to rehab and be able to get cleared by then. So, I think by doing it that way, it leaves you open to a surprise like that. So, we knew with how many matches they already have planned that they weren't going to have probably a singles SmackDown women's match. So, for what they were going to do, I was fine with this.
We pick on the big things narrative structure wise, Randy Orton and the underreaction to what he did and not following up as well, and praising a little bit. When Baron Corbin does what he does, JBL making a big deal out of it. It was a little heavy-handed, but still. But how are we supposed to believe that Alexa Bliss gets to decide who she faces at Mania? Like with one championship, the champion is protesting who the GMs decide he's going to face or she's going to face, and then you got Bliss just with a straight face going, "Yeah, I get to decide." Like I sometimes they have an end game, they want to land somewhere, but the way that they get there is it's plowing through the traffic cones of logic to get there. And I mean, somebody should have said on commentary, hey, Alexa might think she gets to pick who her opponent is, but she doesn't. So this is all folly. And so that bugs me a little bit. I like when they work within a logical structure. That said, Alexa Bliss is magnificent. I mean, I love her. She's always got killer one-liners. I believe her when she delivers them. I do think there's, sort of like with Rumble, you think there's going to be some mystery entrance. And now I think people are going to wonder, not that there's this huge following for Naomi, but there's going to be people thinking maybe Naomi comes back. If not her, maybe Asuka from NXT or something like that gets called up because she's now considered eligible. So, I mean, that's fine. And I agree. I mean, WrestleMania card, a double brand show. I would have felt bad. I don't think everybody deserves a participation ribbon for WrestleMania. I don't think you just force everybody on the show. I think the number one goal should be serve the fans the best card, not make the wrestlers not feel left out and pouting. That said, the women's division, there's enough parity on SmackDown. I think it makes sense to throw a half a dozen of them in a match.
And you know what? To that point, Wade, they did the same exact thing on Raw too, where Mick Foley's asking Bayley, "Hey, who are you going to face at WrestleMania? Who do you want to face?" And he said, well, "When has this become a thing?"
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, very strange. I liked last night with Natalya turning on Becky. I like that they built that up a little bit to the eagle-eyed viewer paying attention, that Natalya was over there trying to get tagged in and Becky wouldn't do it. I like that it wasn't just sort of a random betrayal. At least they made it.
But I think by doing two betrayals in the same match, it kind of lessens the impact of either one, because they had Mickey turning on Alexa as well.
Yeah, and then you had to it, Randy turning on Bray, and you have Bayley and Sasha and the conspiracy theory. There's a lot of the same storyline going on here, where there's these and Kevin Owens and Jericho. You have all these storylines where there's these either short or long-term plots by somebody to pretend to be somebody's friend and undercut them. I think they're just going. There are too many of them right now in WrestleMania season, and I think it's diminishing them a little bit across the board.
We talked about this before. There's that trope. I can't remember where I read it in the 90s, but the idea that there's 7 basic plots to a sitcom. I believe with pro wrestling, there are like 5 basic ways to build a feud.
And one way to end a women's match, by the way. Yeah. Someone coming out to ringside, a woman being distracted, and then a pin. Yeah, there's only one on that. So at least 5 is more than one.
Yeah. Of course, the great feud builder, which is, wait, you think you're better than me? Just pretty much right there. Always go to that. Right?
It works in MMA, so I'm actually for that more than some of these others.
Right. Yeah.
But I like that last night. Here's what I like about the 2 betrayals last night is that if we're going to have this match with Alexa, I like that there won't be factions. I like that it'll be this idea of maybe it's every woman for herself. And I think that'll tell the story that they're going to tell with that. I would love to see Naomi return to Mania. I think that would be a really good pop, especially if they let her do her entrance on that stage.
I kind of disagree on that. I think it would have been more interesting if seeing Mickey turn on Alexa during the match as opposed to already doing that. But it's a small thing. It ultimately doesn't really matter.
And I actually think we've got 3 weeks to go. I'm actually looking forward to hopefully Mickey endearing herself to Alexa Bliss, where the fans know that it's not real, but Bliss doesn't, or the fans suspect it is, and Mickey uses her charm and manipulation to actually lure Bliss into a false sense of security. I think we've got 3 weeks for that to happen.
Yeah. So Mickey and Alexa won that match last night. Mickey did turn on Alexa after the match was over. We got some, they were hyping 205 Live with the Austin Aries promo. What happened quickly on 205 Live last night? Is there sort of a quick nutshell?
Austin Aries back in action.
Nice.
His first match since getting injured from that kick from Shinsuke Nakamura. And he defeated Tony Nese in the main event of 205 Live.
Cool. So I'm sure we'll see more from him in the ring now going forward towards Mania.
That's what the Cruiserweight division needed, an alpha male babyface. And they have it in Austin Aries. So.
Yeah.
They're him and Neville are the 2 guys in that division you can take seriously, and that would be on the main roster, and Neville was, but they kind of buried him. But they're just very believable, and you don't have that with a lot of the other guys.
And then we had the number 1 contenders match last night, AJ Styles and Randy Orton. We talked about this as the match was set. Everyone was saying I don't think that's happened before. Yeah, this could be really cool. This could be good. Everyone really got on board with the idea of it. But then, man, did they sell this last night with them hyping it through the episode. So much so, I think it just everyone could not help but feel that it was not going to meet their expectations. So, Wade, you were talking about it earlier. So walk us through what you thought the high points were of the match and what you think was lacking in that way towards Randy getting the win over AJ.
Well, I mean, I don't know if there were high points. That's kind of the problem. Yeah. It felt, it's like people say when they're on some sort of mood drugs where they're like, they never feel highs and they don't feel lows. They're just kind of always in the middle to keep themselves from going up and down. And that's sort of what it feels like here. I feel like Randy's matches are medicated to avoid them getting too bad, but also too good. And that's what we got again. It just feels craftsman-like, but detached from human emotion. And that's what I felt that was here. And I felt that way with Randy and Daniel Bryan too. We were all excited about that. This clash of Randy's been doing such great work for 10 years. And Daniel Bryan on the indie scene and international, he's this great, it's going to be great. And they had these, maybe Bryan brought it up to a B, it's just, so I don't know. It was typical Randy Orton. And I don't blame him in the sense that he's very beat up. He doesn't show it. He doesn't talk about it, but there's just, there's a lot of things he can't do in the ring anymore for fear of getting hurt. And I don't think he wants to sacrifice his health or his paychecks for WWE. I think he treats this as a business. He sees it for what it is, as a third generation guy, and he's going to go in there and he's going to give them a B- match that's going to be good enough. He gets his pops for the greatest hits. He has a finisher that's over. More power to him, but I'm going to call it what it is. It's not a match that lives up to the buildup that the announcers gave it.
And to that point, Wade, and by the way, Wade also, right after this, Wade will be hosting the PW Torch podcast at pwtorch.com. So at 1 Eastern. So make sure to jump over there as soon as this is over. But when was the last time you could think of that Orton did have like an A match? I can't even think about it, like even remember the last time.
Yeah.
I'm going back like WrestleManias and everything.
I know. Nothing comes to, it doesn't come to mind. I really feel we've been, like, he's not so bad that you're just like, what happened to Randy? But it's like he just sort of hovers there and that was a good match. I wish it was better, but it was better than, most of the matches on the card. He just kind of lulls you into this kind of complacent, okay, it's Randy and he's a star and we like him. And like I said, you can't build a promotion around everybody being like that, but it's fine having him in that role. I just, like, when they put him on SmackDown, it wasn't like, whoa, this is going to make SmackDown great, because I can't remember the last really exciting Randy Orton promo we've gotten either. Randy is he's just Randy. He's B- player.
He's kind of like a part-timer who's always there.
Yeah. Yes.
A couple of people are mentioning Randy versus Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. I thought the finish was great, but the match itself was nothing special. And some people are mentioning his matches with Christian 2011. So we're going back 6 years. So yeah, I've had that issue with Orton for a while now. It's just, once the bell gets going, I just stop caring about the match and his promos, to Wade's point, they've never really been that great.
What did you guys think about? So I had to go back and watch this again. The AJ Styles fake out there that almost looked like a botched move to someone not paying close attention, where AJ looked like he was going to go for the phenomenal forearm, psyched him out, and Randy did an RKO on no one, bumping on the mat.
I loved it. I thought it was great. I think everybody thought they knew what was going to happen. Yeah. And AJ outsmarted Randy. And I'm assuming it was planned. They did a similar spot at the house show the night before where I think Randy actually hit the RKO. We had somebody call up the PW Torch livecast last night after Ron talk about that after SmackDown last night. And they talked about how at the Monday house show, they had a run-through match, and they did a similar finish, but Raw put a twist on it. So maybe it was messed up. I watched it, and I just thought it was a really clever, good finish.
Yeah, that was actually the highlight of the match for me, was that spot. Yeah, that was the one point I was like, man, that was really creative.
But I want to underline, I like that Randy Orton's main eventing WrestleMania for a title. He should get a clean win. From a business standpoint, I get there's going to be AJ fans who don't like that, and that's good. You want to have wrestlers where fans are upset when they lose, but no, it was a right finish to not mess around with it, and I bet AJ was totally fine with that. There's a time when you're against another top guy, and you don't need or want a controversial finish. That's not necessary for what they're doing at Mania.
Absolutely, but Wade, I wanted to ask you because we've seen Orton versus Bray Wyatt on pay-per-view a couple times now. They haven't really blown the crowd away. Do you see it being different at WrestleMania?
No. I know. I can't imagine. They say they're gonna, you win the Rumble, you headline WrestleMania. I think people will be leaving the stadium at the 5.5 hour mark if that's the main event. But they got 3 weeks to convince us otherwise. I just don't see them accomplishing it. And then, match wise, they should go out and want to have the match of their career. But opponents of Randy don't get to have the match of their career. They get to have the match that Randy feels comfortable doing. And I think Bray is another multi-generation guy, go along, get along worker. He's not going to push it, and I don't think they'll be encouraged or be told they need to push it. They'll go through and have a B- match.
And let me ask you this as well. Because this is something I had been arguing for. What do you think it would have been better if they left Shane McMahon out of this WrestleMania and changed that main event to a 3-way with Wyatt, Orton, and AJ Styles?
It'd be a better match. I think they'd have to have storyline support to explain it, because the issue with Randy and Bray is so personal. I think they'd have to do a different angle than have Randy burn down the compound, because when you have Randy, I know it sounds ridiculous. When you have Randy and Bray in a deeply personal grudge match with this multi-month build-up, and then you throw AJ into it just to make the match better, it's a little third wheel. And I think AJ deserves his own one-on-one match. I have tons of reservations about AJ against Shane McMahon, unless it ends like Goldberg and Lesnar, which is AJ looks at Shane McMahon, Shane throws a punch, AJ blocks it, AJ Pele kicks him and gives him the Styles Clash, and it's over. That's what should happen. Shane McMahon is a wrestling executive in his late 40s who does not belong in the ring with AJ Styles in any even Steven way. It is as absurd and ridiculous as anything. Undertaker was older than Shane McMahon. And there's, some argument with the stipulations and everything that they could have made. That even then, it suspended my disbelief too much. It's absurd. That said, that objection laid out, Shane is a McMahon, and I don't think WWE perceives putting AJ in against Shane as a demotion for AJ. So AJ's going to go and he's going to do what Kurt Angle did. He's going to try to have a great match with Shane McMahon to make Shane McMahon look like he belonged in there with him. AJ's capable of it. I don't like it, but I think there's worse places for AJ to be, like some showcase match against Dolph Ziggler. I mean, at least it feels like a WrestleMania special attraction match. So mixed feelings, but overall, I don't think AJ fans should be too upset because it is a McMahon. I'd obviously rather have Shane McMahon next week say, after what you said to me, AJ, you want an opponent at WrestleMania, I got you one. His name is, and then cue the violin music, and out comes Shinsuke. I'll take that at this point.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But the one positive with AJ and Shane, at least hopefully, you never know sometimes with WWE, but hopefully at least AJ will be getting a win at WrestleMania. So there's something.
Oh God,
silver lining.
So. Who knows?
Let's quickly touch upon Talking Smack last night. We had Alexa Bliss come out, Apollo Crews come out, saw backstage in Gorilla, AJ tearing stuff up. And then The Miz came out for the last 8 minutes and did that amazing promo we talked about earlier. So Apollo is also going to be in the Andre Battle Royal.
How do we not lead with that?
Yeah. I will say this on Talking Smack, this segment and the one he did a couple weeks ago, I think he's getting the hang of how to present his personality in a way where it's not just, I've got a great smile and I'm really nice. I think
a lot of people have that in them, and then they get on WWE television with the scripting and it's like Rich Swann. Oh, he likes to have fun. Oh God, if I never hear that again. Jesus, who doesn't? But I mean, and Apollo Crews, it's like, smile. You got bright white teeth and you're good-looking guy. Just go out there and smile and make all the kids feel like warm and happy. And it's all about bringing smiles to people's faces. Apollo Crews needs to have an edge to him, but if you take him off script, a lot of guys are better off script.
Yeah,
Shamrock was better off script. 20 years ago, he joined WWF, and people thought he's going to be great. And he was doing these, I'm Ken Shamrock and I'm mad. And it was like, that's not who we saw in UFC. I just want let Apollo Crews be Apollo Crews.
Yeah, I mean, they signed Paul Heyman because of Brock Lesnar's promo skills, but he was cutting killer promos in the UFC. Yes. So you let these guys be themselves sometimes, and you get you could get something amazing. And I wish they would. I could see where scripting promos would be helpful for some, or at least giving them a general idea of where to go, which obviously they should do anyway. But the over scripting, it hurts a lot of guys.
I was surprised. You guys sent me a script for this show.
Right. Yeah, right. I did want to say the thing that bugs the hell out of me is when they're like, I'm entering myself in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. And all you have to do is say, hey, I've been informed that I'm going to be in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. So it makes it seem like, you earned it or you deserved it, as opposed to it's something that anyone can just say that they're in.
Yeah. I mean, what the line should be, since it's apparent that I'm not going to get a singles match at WrestleMania because I'm not high enough on the card, I am therefore submitting an application, and I know I'll be accepted because everybody else is going to be in this match. They can't say that, but that's kind of the way it comes across is, I mean, poor Dolph Ziggler, I mean, he's going to be in that match too.
Yeah. I gotta say though, man, I love talking smack. I love that they have the characters go out there and improvise in character. I think it's just as an exercise. It's great. And it's fantastic that we get to watch it. I thought Alexa was good last night. I think she gets better and better every week that they put her on there and let her talk it out. I think the other big bombshell last night that everyone was reacting to was the crack Daniel Bryan made about, in a year and a half, we'll see if he's going to come back in the ring or not when his contract's up.
Well, I mean, that's what his people who apparently have insight into his mindset have been saying since he was retired against his will by WWE. I think if he doesn't wrestle for another year and a half, he's going to rationalize that his concussion issues have healed substantially, and one way or the other, he wants to wrestle again. WWE's writing out his contract. I think that they have a tense but friendly understanding that he will serve that out. It's best for him. But I mean, I've talked to people who think he shouldn't wrestle again. I've talked to people who think he absolutely should, just not a full-time schedule and with some limitations on what he does. My issue is does Daniel Bryan have it in him to not go all out and take crazy bumps? And I mean, if in his book, he's just talking about the dumb decisions he made in terms of wrestling with concussions, taking chair shots to the head. I need this to be a Daniel Bryan who's a father, who understands restraint and understands that he can have a great match without hurting his brain, and that it takes some editing. And I hope he has the self-discipline to do that if he does come back. But it was a remarkable comment to make, and I think WWE already knew his stance. I don't think it was shocking. It's just putting it out there like that is certainly newsworthy and a talking point.
Let me ask you this, Wade. Do you think WWE would allow Daniel Bryan to wrestle again? This is kind of a roundabout way of doing it. Like saying, hypothetically, Bryan does leave WWE in a year and a half when his contract is up, goes and wrestles for ROH for a year. And after that year, you think WWE, and assuming he's completely fine and doesn't get injured, and it's, working the style that he wants, do you think they'd bring him back then?
Yeah, it's so, I hate the cliche, never say never, but it really, if they think it'll draw money, and Daniel Bryan can pass tests and he's showing an adjusted in-ring style, I don't think they're too stubborn that they would say no to that. But there is a sense, I could imagine them thinking, wait a second, we're not going to let somebody go rogue outside of WWE, defy what we believe our doctor said was best for him, and then end up looking like they should have, there we go, that we should have, that we were wrong all along, and that we should have let Daniel Bryan wrestle. So I wouldn't rule it out, but I think there could be some anger and bitterness at Bryan kind of defying them and making them look like they were overly cautious. But again, if they think he can draw money and they don't have big time stars, because by the time we're talking 2-3 years down the line, there's probably no Brock Lesnar, almost for sure no Undertaker and Goldberg. Probably Triple H has aged out at that point. Shane McMahon hopefully at that point too. So you start running out of these special attractions. And who do they have from the 2000s to take the place of all these Attitude Era wrestlers who they're putting in headline matches? Maybe a comeback match for Kurt Angle, but beyond that, most of the guys from the post-Attitude Era who are the next generation special attractions, I don't see who's going to be able to fill the shoes of the guys who are aging out right now. So Daniel Bryan moves up the list then.
Yeah. And I don't think they're going to have as big of names, right? There's not going to be as big of names to tap into from that middle era.
Yeah, they're not allowing themselves to create bigger names.
Yeah. And the question is the 15-year-old today in his 20s going to look back at John Cena and Randy Orton and some of the stars who he or she grew up watching? Are they going to look at the special attractions like the current generation did, popping for Goldberg, or they look at Triple H? I don't think to the same degree, but you don't know until that generation starts, getting older and looking back nostalgically at some of the stars they grew up with. But I just don't think that kind of 2003 to 2013 era has anybody who can go in the ring who has that big name special attraction vibe.
We kind of saw Batista when he came back, and the response he got. It wasn't this overly, and granted, it wasn't that long, but still, It was long enough that you would think that if fans really cared, they would have shown that they missed him and were happy to have him back. But that didn't happen at all.
Yeah.
Hey man, when the Funkasaurus makes its return, I mean, that pop is gonna blow the lid off the place. Yeah, I think all in all though, man, see, we talk about it with SmackDown Live, and then we get to Talking Smack, and it's like, yeah, that was an excellent night of wrestling. Amazing what a difference that 20 minutes makes at the very end there.
Yeah.
Yeah, SmackDown Live was, I thought, the MVP this week, and really because of the Miz.
Yeah. Absolutely. Cool, guys. So we got a little time here before we wrap up. Want to talk about what's the latest going on with Impact, Raj?
Sure. Real quick, Wade, I wanted to get your thoughts on Triple H versus Seth Rollins. They're not, coming out now.
Wait, that's on Impact this week?
Right, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You got a scoop.
Hey, man, they're signing a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
I gotta go post a story.
But they're not coming out and saying that they're going to have a match. It looks like they're still playing it by ear. Triple H was like, "Don't you call me out at WrestleMania." What do you think? What do you think is their backup plan, assuming that Rollins can't wrestle Triple H? Is it just going to be Rollins calling out Triple H and they have a little brawl that leads to a tag match or something like that?
Well, I think it's at a point now where Seth can't not show up.
Right.
But this is Triple H. And so who knows? He might end up, bigfooting Seth and making Seth look bad, because Triple H will stand out there, do his whole ring entrance and wait for Seth and no Seth. And then Triple H will cut a promo about how Seth was never a big star and he was, and how he got his nicknames naturally. And Seth had they were manufactured in marketing. I mean, I thought Triple H kind of buried Seth on Raw on Monday night with that promo, but that's Triple H's way of, he can't help himself. He in trying to put over a feud in somebody else, he ends up talking a lot about himself and how awesome he was. So we can't rule anything out for Mania. That said, my initial reporting that I heard the week of Seth's injury, 2-3 days after the injury, is this is a type of injury where they're not going to know if he can work at WrestleMania. For sure yes, or for sure no. That's what it was looking like. I think that's where they are. So I think they're going to half advertise it and hope that in the end they end up with Seth and Hunter being able to have some sort of a brawl. I think that's the best case scenario. I don't think a full-fledged match with Seth's knee is all that likely. But I don't think they would have spent as much time as they have the past couple of weeks on Seth and Hunter if they didn't have a minimal plan that involves some physical contact between them, even if it's not a full-fledged match.
My prediction, here's my prediction. I think if Seth can't have a full-fledged match, I think Seth calls out Triple H. They have a little brawl. Samoa Joe comes out. They start double teaming Seth, and then Finn Balor comes out. Assuming he hasn't returned to TV by then, I think Finn Balor comes out. The New Day comes, makes a tag match. Balor works most of the match, and they get the win. That's just my prediction. But
I think by then Big E is going to have his tongues frozen to the ice cream truck, and they're going to be.
There's nothing that grosses me out probably more than seeing that. And did you think Triple H? Did you think he was taking a shot at CM Punk with that whole talk about the doctors, and they're in Chicago, and he's talking about how great the WWE doctors are?
Yeah, is that really the time and place and context that you want to be making? You're Triple H the heel with a grudge at Seth Rollins, and now you're going to start acting like you're at some corporate conference talking about how great they care for their athletes. As the pettiness and score settling that goes on in that company by people on top sometimes is pretty astounding.
Right.
I thought that fit really well, though. I thought that fit very well for Triple H as the character.
Oh, right.
It did, but I thought it was so random, him talking about doctors as opposed to focusing the promo on Seth. But it was a clever way to kind of work in that shot to CM Punk.
Yeah.
It fits the character in the sense that his character is the daddy of NXT who's bringing all the hardcore fans their great wrestling. He's the guy who's overseen the performance center and the modernization of the next generation of wrestlers, but he's also the authority. Please boo him against Seth Rollins, and thinks Seth Rollins is fantastic and a lead babyface, even though Triple H deep down, is the guy who makes wrestling great.
Yeah. Right. Even if it's Seth coming down that ramp on a rascal scooter, I think something's got to happen at Mania with them. Cool. So do we just quickly, before we get into Impact, want to talk about where we're at with the card for Mania, Rush?
Sure. I think pretty much all the big matches are laid out. No real surprises other than they might have moved Nia Jax out of the Raw Women's Championship match. It doesn't really affect it much either way. Shaq and the Big Show still seems up in the air. I don't think anyone really cares either way for that. But Wade, Undertaker, and Roman Reigns, who should go over in that match?
Roman Reigns, probably. But I can make an argument either way. I mean, the obvious answer is Roman Reigns is going to be is Vince McMahon sees him as a guy who's going to be headlining WrestleMania for the next 5 to 10 years for him. Give Roman a big win and have Undertaker afterwards. Have Reigns help Undertaker up. Undertaker look over at him, pat him on the shoulder, raise his arm, point at him, and go, "This guy's the real deal." And you put over Roman Reigns big. That's one way, but people are going to resent that. They're going to go, speaking of CM Punk, they're going to see that as Roman Reigns being the chosen one, and he gets all the benefits. He gets all the wins over the big stars. If you want Roman Reigns to end up with with fans, I think not looking at him as being favored so much, have him do a job. Have him do a job to Undertaker and do the honors. And I think the fans who are booing him will, I think, warm up to the notion that Roman Reigns isn't so privileged that he was that he was asked and did a job to Undertaker in a competitive match. So you can make the case either way. I think Vince's thinking is more along the lines of have Roman win, but I could see Vince's rationale being we're going to have Roman lose because that'll build up some respect among the fans who are booing him.
Yeah. Do you think there's any chance that they'd have Reigns turn heel and cheat to beat Taker and go finally with Reigns turning heel, even though they've been so resistant so far?
Is there a place we can sign a petition for that? Because I would. I mean, I think that's where the money is. Yeah. I think Roman Reigns being a heel for a couple years and go with turn Samoa Joe babyface down the line against Roman, have Finn Balor be your lead babyface, switch AJ babyface, move him to Raw, build around Shinsuke, whatever, have Seth Rollins go. Do whatever you have to do. Patch together a top babyface crew, have Roman be the centerpiece heel. I think you can draw big money with Roman in his natural role for the next couple of years and then go from there. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think Vince is determined to get Roman over as the face of the company who sells merchandise to kids, and he can put prominently in the front on the posters for international tours and at sponsorship events, because Roman looks like Vince McMahon wants his leading male in the WWE movie to look. And I think he's going to push for that until it's more obvious than it's even been that that's not what the fans want.
Yeah, it does seem like if Roman turned heel, then you wouldn't have that baby face that Vince sees as the top guy, especially, with Cena being gone at least for a few months. So I as much as I'd like to see it, I could really see them not doing it.
What do you have, Raj? Do you have a prediction on who goes over?
I think it's going to be Reigns.
Yeah. I'm worried about the match. I mean, I'm worried about Taker physically too. I hope that he works. He goes over these matches move for move, rehearses them. He's meticulous. And if they end up getting Braun Strowman involved to kind of cover for it, that won't shock me either if Braun ends up involved in the finish. But it can't be the last match on Mania if you do a finish with interference. Right.
Yeah, I think they could do enough smoke and mirrors that it could be entertaining. Reigns has gotten really good in the ring. I mean, he had a great match with Braun Strowman. He's had great matches with the Big Show. So I think they'll be able to pull it off. But Taker looked bad at the Royal Rumble. Hopefully, his hips. He's had a plethora of injuries over the years. So hopefully he could do something. Now, Wade, I know you got a podcast coming up 1 p.m. Eastern, pwtorch.com. Real quick, new era Impact Wrestling starts tomorrow. Your thoughts?
I'm glad there's a new era. I just wish it wasn't the band getting back together from a previous era. I wish it was really a new era, but I don't want to prejudge too much, although I haven't heard from Jeff Jarrett in the comments that he's made and things I've heard behind the scenes, anything that makes me think there's a new vision that's going to be executed starting tomorrow night that is going to really grab people's attention in a way that's going to increase viewership or make TNA more relevant. I think it'll be a nice change from, the last year's been fine, but it was a show, if you invested 2 hours, you're like, oh, that was a pretty good wrestling show for the most part. But it wasn't one that had any kind of buzz or that made you think, wow, they're really doing something new with this pro wrestling genre and they have these rising stars. I just don't trust until I see differently that a Jeff Jarrett-led vision is something that's going to get TNA on the radar of people who have written them off for the past 5 years.
Yeah, it just seems like there's also with Pop TV, it just seems like there's such limited mobility as far as where you could go with that TV deal they have right now.
Although it introduced me to Schitt's Creek, and that makes Impact's move to Pop TV worth it. That is a fantastic comedy.
There you go.
Yeah. Specifically speaking, they lost some top talent. They got some new names coming back. or some old names coming back. And I mean, let's see what they do with them. I glossed over the spoilers, enough to kind of pluck out what the headlines were, but I didn't meticulously study each show because I kind of, want to see it play out. And I'm hoping with, I think one of the big things Impact needed more than anything, if I pinpoint one specific, it's better play-by-play. I thought Josh Matthews got worse over time, and I think Jeremy Borash will be and is a huge improvement, and I think that will add a lot to the show. I'm not sure if Josh, as a heel commentator every week, if that's what they do, is going to grow agitating enough to make it kind of a turn off the TV or turn down the volume aspect either, but Jeremy on play-by-play will absolutely be a step up.
Yeah, they did. I mean, real quick, they did. And anyone not interested in spoilers, just stop listening right now. They did do an angle where Josh Matthews is gone. So do you have do you have any thoughts on who they might replace him with as Jeremy Borash's partner?
No, I don't. Yeah, the Pope is kind of. I'd say take it or leave it, but that'd be more of an endorsement than I feel, even though I think he got less annoying and cliched over time. I think he got better and Josh got worse, and they still were a bad announce team. But I think they have they've got candidates. I don't think finding a color commentator Dutch Mantel was a really good color commentator at one point on WCW TV, and I think in Smoky Mountain too, he did some. So yeah, they can find somebody who will work. A good lead play-by-play guy selling the angles, and Jeremy's old school enough that he's going to put over the baby faces and rip on the heels for cheating, and that's you need that in somebody who can be enthusiastic about a match, and Josh just couldn't do that.
Right, a couple of people saying JR. I interviewed JR yesterday. He has no interest. All right, well, thanks again, Wade. Again, head over to pwtorch.com right after this. Wade will have the PW Torch podcast. And thanks again, Wade. We'd love to have you back.
Yeah, absolutely. pwtorchlivecast.com, just to avoid confusion. That's where the podcast will be. And we'll have Sam Roberts on with me in about 8 minutes talking about a lot of these same topics. So we'll get into that with him. And speaking of Jim Ross, he's on my interview show tomorrow, same 1 Eastern at pwtorchlivecast.com.
Awesome, man.
Cool. It was a pleasure. Great talking to you guys.
All right. Well, thank you, Wade.
Absolutely.
We'll talk to you soon. Glenn, if you want to stick around real quick, we'll get a couple of these questions. Thanks again, Wade. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
While you're looking through those questions, Raj, one question for you. So I watched the finale of Holy Foley, finally. This Noelle Foley thing, is that over? Is that going anywhere further?
So. I haven't heard of her being at the Performance Center or anything like that. So. Well,
I don't know if you watched the finale. But
I haven't watched a single episode of Holy Foley.
It was a cute show. Look, better than Chris Lee Knows Best, I'll tell you that much. They ended it with WWE saying not now, basically. Not a no, but that she needs to work on her athleticism and her strength training.
My take on it has been that it was just a storyline for the show. Yeah. And yeah, so she's an attractive girl. She I'm sure they could use her in some role, but with Mick being written off soon and they haven't used her at all on TV, I don't see it happening yet. Yeah, but I don't see her being a wrestler though.
Yeah, it was interesting. I felt like it was the reality show. If you haven't started it yet, folks, there's no satisfying conclusion, I guess is my point. It's cute, but it's not really a journey, More people saying Jim Ross is lying. He's not. Look, he's announcing New Japan on Access, so I don't think even contractually he'd be able to. And so, so JR is not going to impact his tweet that he sent out. He confirmed to me that it was just noting that they're changing the commentary, not that he was going to be doing commentary for him. Cool, man.
Any other questions, guys? Use hashtag WINC podcast. I know there were a bunch earlier that kind of missed, but keep sending them. Glenn, do you have a match right now at WrestleMania that you're most looking forward to?
Out of all of it, I'm actually looking forward to whatever they do if they put together one of those 6-man ladder matches like they did last year. I think that a lot of these guys that haven't gotten a spot yet, if they even do one of those this year, right? Because if we're gonna have Corbin and Dean for the IC title, then is that really the armbar? Is that going to be where like Sami Zayn and everyone else ends up that doesn't get a match? Do you think?
Well, I don't see them doing an inter-brand one.
So maybe that's what ends up happening with it. I think WrestleMania, the card is solid this year, but there's nothing I look at where I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think it's been a while since you've had that kind of match. I think Sting versus Triple H, it had enough intrigue. that you're just curious how Sting would look, if Triple H would put him over, which he didn't. So yeah, I mean, for me, I think Taker versus Reigns is really interesting. I don't necessarily mean that'll be the best match on the show by any means or anything like that. I just think it's interesting with where they could go if they do turn Reigns heel. You could make arguments for either man winning that match. Jim Ross, that was another question I asked him. He said that he would turn Reigns heel, have Reigns win after the match, say, "Hey, you might not like what I did, but kiss my ass. You never cared anyway."
Yeah,
and
that'd be amazing.
That would be amazing. Yeah,
absolutely. Someone on Reddit, I wish I remembered their name, said this the other day. I read it and really contextualized how I feel about WrestleMania. WrestleMania is not for us, basically, saying that WrestleMania
not
is
for you, not for some of you guys.
No, but it's not for the hardcore fan. It's not a reward for the hardcore fan who watches Raw and SmackDown each week, who pays attention to everything. It's not for us. It's Vince's one chance a year to be in the legitimate entertainment business, to have mainstream media pay attention to him, and to get all those people that are lapsed fans to come back and pay attention. That's who he's catering to with this. So I think we should be able to enjoy it and appreciate it, but this is not being booked to satisfy all our, crazy fantasies.
Yeah. Someone's asking, do you see Lesnar versus Joe for the Universal title after Mania? I do see that. Really, you got Joe, Braun Strowman, and Roman Reigns kind of, in the hunt there. So it opens up some new fresh matchups. So I could definitely see him with the push that they're giving Joe. Actually,
and after last night, I don't know about how the match is going to be, but goddamn, Miz and Maurice versus Cena and Nikki. I'm just looking forward to the buildup of that over the next couple of weeks. I want to see the Miz and Cena going at it more in doing promos against each other. I think, that's going to have a really great build regardless of how the final match is.
Yeah. Someone's asking if AJ versus Shane is a way to move AJ to Raw. I don't think so. It's just a way to get Shane on the card, really. Let's see. Where do they go with? Well, we answered that.
Weird last night. Again, no Usos. No American Alpha. I wonder if they're just putting a pin in that until after Mania, because they don't have space for it right now.
Yeah, I bet at best there'll be a tag match on the pre-show, but yeah, that's about it. It's clear that they don't see American Alpha as something special, and they need. And someone's asking about the revival after WrestleMania. I could see it. One of the names is Elias Sampson after WrestleMania. So they always have some weird ones after Mania, like they had the Vaudevillains before, and Apollo Crews when. And that's nothing against Apollo Crews. Just he wasn't a top star at NXT. He hadn't been there that long, so it was kind of odd that he moved to the main roster before a lot of other guys.
Man, if Elias is getting called up, Kurt Hawkins better hold off any major purchases, because I could see Elias coming for that spot.
There you go.
Yeah. Elias. It's amazing to me. It's one thing if you want a heel character that gets genuine heat, but it's another thing when you have a heel that gets indifference, from a crowd, the way Elias Sampson does almost every time he performs.
Yeah. I know Elias has that look that Vince likes, so I'm sure he'll get something of a push. It'll be kind of like Baron Corbin.
Yeah, Corbin at least I think has an it factor about him, but Elias, the Drifter is not a solid gimmick.
No, it's not a winner. It's not a winning gimmick. Who will be the new Raw GM after WrestleMania? A lot of people say Kurt Angle. People say Hulk Hogan, but really, more times than not, when they have a GM spot open that becomes vacant and they fill it, it's something disappointing. Whether it's, and this is no disrespect to Teddy Long, but he wasn't like a big star that people are excited to see. Mike Adamle, the laptop, that anonymous GM. So I would not get your hopes too high.
Yeah, it could very well end up being Bo Dallas. It's not like they're doing anything else with him.
Right.
Cool, man. Yeah.
Even though Christian
could
be entertaining. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Edge or Edge and Christian, bring them both back. Let them do the gig, at least.
Co-GMs. Yeah, that'd be different.
That'd be fantastic. Their show got renewed, right? They're filming season 2 of that?
Yeah. Awesome. Someone thinks Scott Steiner, that would be awesome.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
So he would be dwarfing all the talent, so I don't think they want that.
Yeah, just put Foley out of his misery at this point. It's just sad.
Yeah.
Seeing how Stephanie's dressing him down more. Cool, man. So Raj and I will be back Monday night with Mr. Matt Morgan to talk about Monday Night Raw and all of the shenanigans that will ensue then. And Raj, anything people should look for on the site the rest of this next couple days?
The stuff from the JR interview will be going up this week. JR talks about the Impact Wrestling rumors, that Roman Reigns Undertaker stuff. So we'll have some highlights from it. And then the full interview, I believe, next week. And then more from my interview with Tony Schiavone was posted Monday. And my interview with Josh Barnett will be, the rest of it will be up on Thursday. So tons of exclusives. And stay glued.
Sounds good. And everyone, be sure to follow both Raj and myself on Twitter. You can find links to our Twitter names in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe, leave us a rating and review on iTunes, on YouTube. So until next time, folks, I'm Glenn Rubenstein, and we'll see you back here on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.